like that. Having trees this year, and next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, leading to 20 years from now. If you don't own the forest, if there's no future cost or benefit from how you care for the forest, then why bother planting any tree? It doesn't belong to me. I can't reap the benefit. Someone else can come along and cut down a tree that I plant. So why should I bother planting any trees? It's like the ice cream soda or the bison being shot out the window. Better to just cut down the trees, enjoy the revenue, because if I plant a tree or conserve it, don't cut down as many right now to have trees to sell next year, it's not my property. Someone else can come along and cut them down. And what have I gained by not cutting them down myself? The same way, what does she gain by not gulping, and therefore forcing you to gulp more than you want to? And what guides these things? This very price system that I was explaining. Prices inform people what others want in the society as demanders, and the value, some type of control or regulation specifying what shall be preserved and what not. Why is it more democratic? Because it's we deciding. If a sufficient number of us value something that we're willing to pay a price high enough for someone to preserve it, provide it, maintain it, improve it, it's done. If it's not, then that's basically all of us as consumers, as demanders in society, saying that we don't value it enough compared to other things we want to spend our money on to preserve necessarily that. So the little kid's stick man doesn't get into the art museum. Rembrandt and Van Gogh gets bought up and put there. So everyone can then enjoy it in a museum. And it's the same thing with natural beauty. The upshot of this is, as I would like to suggest, is that to the extent that we rely more upon markets, we eliminate these types of social problems, that we usually think about the environment. We can internalize the externalities. When someone has to bear the cost of their actions, they then have to weigh whether the benefit is worth the cost they'll have to pay. If he has to pay to compensate the people downriver for his pollution, he has to bear the cost of that, then he'll have to decide whether it's worth making the product at all, or maybe he has to invest in some type of pollutant repressant so it doesn't have that impact on his neighbor and their property. If someone values something of beauty, it will get preserved because you create a profit motive for someone to invest in it and provide it to you. If you go to Florida, in Orlando, there's Disney World. Now, there are other uses for the land upon which Disney World, as an amusement park, is sitting. But why is it devoted to Disney World instead of some other use? People like to retire in Florida, and Orlando, in the Orlando area, is very popular for that. One could imagine that there could be more retirement condominiums where Disney World is sitting. Why is it devoted to that? Because people like to have a good time having their picture taken with Minnie and Mickey and Donald. Right? Mickey Mouse. That's the most highly valued use. Entertainment, enjoyment. So if people, instead of just building more houses or another strip mall, build Disney World. If people value nature and enjoyment and forests or beaches, why would you not expect people to invest in supplying it because the profits are there? Why do you think the Disney Corporation maintains Disney World? Because people will pay prices that generates them a return. Because people demonstrate that that's what they value. That's what property rights do. It solves the problems of society by allowing us to decide and create the incentives for responding in more appropriate ways. Now, let me just finish by saying this. I'm aware of the fact, as I've said in some of the early talks, we're talking about imperfect people in an imperfect world. And no institutional arrangement is perfect either. Do people do stupid things? Do people do things without careful and sufficient forethought? Do people just make mistakes and errors? Of course. I can't tell you how many mistakes and errors I've made. And my wife has reminded me of each one of them. She doesn't let me forget. So, I mean, does everything turn out right? Is not a mistake made? Of course. The question is, what institutional arrangement in an imperfect world of imperfect people is one that will tend to solve these problems better and more effectively than another institutional arrangement. And I think that all things considered, both from the history and our understanding theoretically, the use of private property, markets, and the incentive mechanisms that private property and markets create for people will tend to handle most of these problems of the environment and the planet that seem to be persistently of concern to most people around the world. Thank you very much.